Hi folks, hope you're keeping safe and well during this difficult time. I just wanted to give a few thoughts on the passing of my father, John J Murray, last night at 20 past 5 in Liverdale Hospital. I'm not reading from a script, these are just off the cuff thoughts, and I guess things are still very raw, so I hope you'll forgive the unscripted nature of this, but I suppose I just want to start by just saying that my mum and I have been overwhelmed by hundreds of messages and texts and phone calls that we've received over the last 24 hours. We've been overwhelmed with kindness. I've just been amazed. Even I'm staying through in Glasgow at the moment. I'm in my dad's study here, and even in this little street here in Glasgow, the door has hardly stopped going, with neighbours coming round with cards and flowers and food from my mum, and just to say how sorry they are at the passing of my dad. So it's been a lovely example of neighbourliness and kindness and love, and we feel very upheld on the prayers of the Lord's people at this time. We know that many people are praying for us, and we're just so thankful for that. Grief is beyond words. Even when a parent dies at the age of 85, there is just a deep hole that is left in my life and in many other people's lives when they lose a parent. That is just beyond words, and we're just so thankful for all that Dad was to us, as a father and as a husband and as a grandfather, and we're so thankful for the promise of 1 Thessalonians 4, that we don't grieve as those who have no hope. And we're so thankful that Dad is now face to face with his Saviour, who he loved and served so faithfully on this earth. Some of you will have read the article that I wrote about 15 or 16 months ago to mark my father's 40 years in the ministry. It's on my blog, Ragged Theology. I just talk about a number of things that I feel that my father has left me in terms of a legacy. It's entitled John J Murray, An Enduring Legacy. And a great irony that when it was published, hardly anyone read it, maybe I think 200 or 300 people, and as of tonight it's been read by about 3,000 people all over the world, and it's been shared on Twitter and Facebook. So I just mentioned in that article there's a few things that I feel that my dad has left me. One is a big God. I think Dad preached God in all his glory and majesty. I think Dad was he was a Westminster Confession man. He was a Shorter Catechism man, and he preached God in all his glory. And I also say in the article that Dad left me an attractive saviour. My father was a marrow man, the marrow of modern divinity. He believed in the free offer of the gospel. He believed in inviting everyone to the gospel invitation, and he was very clear and strong on that throughout his ministry. I also mention that Dad left me a love for books. I was a bit of a late starter with books, as any of my Oban High School teachers will tell you. I hated school, apart from shinty and football. I disliked learning until I was in my late teens, early 20s, and went to university, and I've never looked back. I absolutely devour books now. I love books, and I have spent many years reading Dad's library here, and Dad has given me a great love of good books. I love the same books as Dad loved, and I share that love that he had. Dad has also given me. Dad has left me a love for history. He was self-taught almost completely, and as generally I have been. But Dad has left me a great love for history. My particular interest tends to be in the early Free Church times, disruption. I've written a lot about Thomas Guthrie and some of the social philanthropy around that time. So these are some of the things that Dad has left me. You can read about them in the article. One of the things that I say at the end is that Dad has given me a love for family religion, and we were brought up as children having morning and evening family worship. Dad would read the scriptures, he would pray, he would catechize us, and we would quite often sing. One of the great ironies of Dad is he loved the Psalms, he defended the Psalms, the singing of the Psalms throughout his whole ministry, but he was tone deaf and could never, he could recognise tunes but he could never really sing them, and but I was always wheeled out to lead the singing. And I think I just say at the end of my article that Dad left me a great legacy of endurance and consistency, and Dad persevered through many dark times with the same old truths that have been preached in Scotland for thousands of years. He didn't deviate from these old truths, these old doctrines that he loved and preached so faithfully, and he's left me and others a great legacy of consistency and endurance through difficult times when people are looking for gimmicks and looking for new ideas. My dad was faithful and consistent. My dad was an author, as many of you know. He was well known for many books. When my father left Dornoch in the late 1950s, he started publishing a little magazine of his own back called Eternal Truth, and these are the two bound copies of the magazine. It didn't go for very long. I can't remember how many issues there were, but these are collector's items. Only a few people have got these. And shortly after that, he was invited down to the Banner of Truth in London, where he became the editor of the magazine, which has been published consistently since that time. And it's amazing to see this little magazine published. This is the latest edition, April 2020, and my dad was very involved at the very start of this magazine, way back in the 60s with Ian Murray and Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones. My father was best known for this book, Behind a Frowning Providence, which was published about 10 years after my sister's death in December. She died in December 1980 of a brain tumour when we were up in Oban. I was just, I was 8, I was about to turn 9, and I think as I look back over these last 2 years that my father has been through many difficult times, I think that and not surprisingly, the death of my sister Linda had a huge effect on my father and on his ministry, and this book, Behind a Frowning Providence, is very much about that. How do we discern God's dealings with us in dark providences? And this booklet has been a help to thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people, and pastors still tell me that they reread it and give it out all the time, and perhaps more than anything else, my father will be remembered for that booklet. He also wrote a book called Catch the Vision, which is published by Evangelical Press, which is really a survey of the recovery of the Reformed faith in the UK, going right back to the the 50s and 60s. It mentions things like the Evangelical Library, the Banner of Truth, the republishing of Reformed books. Many people think that Reformed books have always been published, but my dad used to tell me that it was so hard to get these works, these great commentaries that we have on our shelves now. These were all very rare back in the 50s, and we owe a great debt of service to publishers like the Banner of Truth and Christian Focus and Evangelical Press for republishing these titles. My father wrote a couple of biographies. He wrote a biography about his friend John Marshall, which is published by the Banner. I thoroughly enjoyed reading that book. It's a very readable book. John Marshall was a very likeable figure, and he also wrote a biography of John Knox, which is published by Evangelical Press, and he's got many articles on Knox and the Reformers. He also published many booklets, too many to mention, that are being circulated a lot by myself and my uncle over the years, and I would hope to get the chance to republish some of these over the next months and years. So today has been a difficult day, waking up for the first time without my dad. Grief is a very difficult thing to put into words. All I can say is that we've been upheld by the prayers of God's people, by all the kind messages and texts and phone calls, and we just want to thank you for that as a family. My dad has an incredible legacy, much of which is contained in this filing cabinet behind me. He meticulously kept all his correspondence, and amazingly, the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet is he meticulously kept all my schoolwork and report cards, which read very depressingly, unfortunately, and he meticulously kept so many things about the family, and which shows really his love and affection for us as a family. My father was very affected by the diagnosis of my other sister in February 2018, when she was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer, and in many ways he never really recovered when I broke the news to him, and it felt very much, looking back, that it was really the straw that broke the camel's back, and he's had a difficult 2 years. He was never quite himself again. He never was quite able to experience the same peace and joy that he had before, and it's been painful to watch him over these last 2 years, really, when my sister was dying and died last October, and it's been a difficult journey for him, and we're just so glad as a family that he's at peace now, and that he has the comfort that he so desired all his life. And the blow of losing both of his daughters clearly had a tremendous toll on him, and it's wonderful to think that he's now at peace and gazing upon the Saviour that he spoke so much about and fought for throughout his life. There's a great theme that comes through so many of the messages about my dad. My father would be the last person to want eulogies or tributes. That's the last thing he would want. But the same words come up time and time again when people message. The words gentleness, graciousness, gracious, godly. These are all the words that come up, and what better legacy for any of us to have than these words. My father was a man who lacked any spite. He was a man who was very quick to forgive. I never really heard him say anything negative about others in the church, even those who had perhaps fought against him over certain issues. And he was certainly not a man that entered into controversy easily or by choice, but there were certain issues in his life that he felt he had to fight, and I feel that he fought them with a degree of graciousness. And his great desire, even right to the end, was to find reconciliation with some of those who he had these battles with, and that is the mark of the man, I think. So we give huge thanks for my dad's life. We'll miss him greatly. The house feels very empty today, but we're thankful for the comfort of the Lord, and we just commend my dad to the Lord tonight, and we thank God for his legacy and his ministry and his love for us as a family over so many years. And we thank you for the way that you're upholding us, and all the kind messages that you've sent to us. And we're sorry that there won't be a funeral that you can attend. It will be immediate family only, and we're hoping, God willing, to bury my father in Oban next Thursday. That seems to be the plan at the moment, and perhaps in a few months' time we'll be able to have a Thanksgiving service where we can invite others along too, and we can worship the Lord together. But in the meantime, thank you for all your kindness and for your support and for your prayers, and please keep safe at this difficult time. Please encourage one another, and show that love that has been shown to us over these last 24 hours as we seek to get through this crisis together. So thank you, and God bless.